The movie opens up with a frantic man in an asylum running away from guards. He finds a secret place under a desk and starts writing a letter to someone, with the words "Save her" standing out as the most crucial one out of all. Then, the scene shifts 13 years in the past, where we see young Evan living with his mother, who tells her that there is a special school presentation and hopes that his dad can come. Judging by this, there are certainly some family issues with the father being absent from Evan's life. When his mom delivers him to school, the teacher asks her to speak with her about some disturbing drawings that Evan has done, which are also ones that he doesn't remember drawing in the first place. Worried about Evan's state, his mom takes him to get his head checked, which is not happening for the first time. The doctor tells Evan's mom that he should write a journal so he can remember situations and events if he ever forgets them. Evan starts using the journal, but still has episodes from time to time, and one in which he grabs a knife and scares his mom, after which he doesn't remember anything. His mom takes him to play with his two friends, Tommy and Kaylee, and their father George promises to take good care of him. Excited to meet up with his friends, things quickly turn for the worse, as the day does not go anything like Evan expected, and the children get abused by George, all three of them. Evan blacks out, and when he wakes up, he sees George as he undresses him. The playdate is over, and Evan is yet again taken to the doctor before finally getting to see his father, who is a mental patient. Evan is excited to see his father and talk to him. However, his father nearly kills him before his life is ended by the guards as an act of self-defense, a sequence of events that leaves Evan confused and sad. The story shifts 6 years later, and Evan is a teenager now, and his life is even more dysfunctional. He still gets episodes of amnesia, and is even more traumatized than ever before. Evan developed a massive crush on Kaylee, and still hangs out with Tommy, who is joined by their mutual friend, Lenny. The group gets into trouble when they use dynamite to blow up a mailbox. Evan blacks out, and Lenny lands in a mental hospital after it was noted that they have accidentally killed a mother and a daughter. Evan has no memory of it, as his episodes have become more frequent. After a while, Lenny goes back home, and Tommy is seeking revenge on Evan for kissing Kaylee at the movies and burns his dog. Evan has yet another episode of amnesia, and when he wakes up, he doesn't remember anything, and sees Kaylee covered in blood beside him and Lenny, after which he moves away with his mother. There is another time jump, and now the movie is in the present, and Evan is in college. He is very smart and gets good grades, but is a social outcast. He has a great connection with his roommate, and realizes that he wants to celebrate for not having an episode for more than 7 years. The two go out and have a lot of fun at the bar. Evan meets a cute girl and brings her to the dorm. When they fool around, the girl finds his diary, and Evan explains how he's been writing in it ever since he was 7 years old. She wants Evan to read her something from it, and Evan gets transported into the past, particularly to the day when Tommy burned his dog. He suddenly returns back to the present and decides to visit his hometown, and when he gets there, he talks to Lenny. However, it looks like Lenny is still traumatized and has left his home in quite a while. Lenny suddenly attacks Evan, and he is teleported back into the past once again, this time around to the day when the group blew up the mailbox. We learn that it was Lenny who planted the dynamite, and the one who loses his mind after seeing the mother and daughter die. And when Evan returns to the present, he realizes that he could probably affect it and change it. Evan goes to dinner with his mother, and they talk about Jason. He wants to know more about his father. However, his mother desperately tries to hide from Evan that his father also had episodes in the past, but mentions that his father also said some things about him also being able to travel back in time, just like him. After a few days, Evan goes to visit his old friend, Kaylee. She is now working at a small diner and has had a horrible life, all caused by her traumatic childhood. And when Evan asks her about her father and what happened in the basement, the place where he abused them, she gets furious and tells him that they should not have come back. She is still angry because he left her and not coming back. She starts to cry and runs away. Evan, later that day, returns to his dorm room and wants to figure out how his father time traveled, but is interrupted by a voice message from Tommy, who tells him that Kaylee committed suicide, and he goes to her funeral, where he sees her horrible father there as well, after which he decides that he will change the timeline by any means necessary. Evan reads his journal and travels back to the time when the group was in the basement. However, now in full control, he threatens George to never touch Kaylee again, after which he wakes up in a new reality he created. His head hurts and he has a massive nosebleed. he gets many new memories and finds himself in bed together with Kaylee, both happy and rich. He takes a while to adjust to everything, but it doesn't last, as her brother Tommy is still a problem. And even though her father stopped abusing her, he shifted his attention to Tommy, and he attacks them both. Evan accidentally kills him and ends up in prison. There, he has a hard time adapting, but meets a friend who tries to help him, who at first does not believe Evan's story. But Evan proves that he is telling the truth, and he is amazed. Evan, with the help of another prisoner, manages to find his journal and travels back in time to right his wrongs. However, every next time he travels, his brain suffers even more and puts more and more stress on himself. Evan once again decides to travel back in time to the day when Tommy kills his dog. However, everything totally fails once again, as this time around, Lenny kills Tommy and ends up in an insane asylum. Evan's nosebleeds get worse and creates an even worse timeline now. After this, Evan thinks that he is just making things worse, and that his powers are more of a curse than a gift, and that every time he tries to fix things, he ruins things even more. His mother is also worried about him, as his condition is getting even worse. Evan tries to make things better once more and attacks George in the basement with the dynamite, but Kaylee gets a hold of it and ends up dead, and Evan ends up in an asylum. After everything has happened, Evan realizes that his efforts to change the timeline have just caused more pain for himself and his friends, and that he is making things worse with each time jump he performs, with his friends and himself suffering even more. Soon after that, the story shifts to how the movie begins, and Evan escapes from the mental hospital room and is now hiding from the guards. They soon find him in a room and start to break the door. Evan is under a desk and finds an old movie that his parents made. In the movie, he spots the day he first met Kaylee when they were kids, after which he uses all of his power to travel back once more. He manages to do so before the guards get to him. Evan then goes to Kaylee and tells her horrible things, and that he will kill her if she does not stay away. And because of that, after her parents' divorce, together with her brother Tommy, they go to live with their mother. This causes them to have a normal childhood, far away from their abusive father, and turn into happy and healthy adults. Evan loses Kaylee from his life, but he is much happier now. He continues to have a great relationship with his mother, and no horrible things happened in his childhood. He wakes up in his dorm, his nose once again bleeding, and in this reality, he is actually roommates with Lenny, who is totally normal. Not wanting to continue with his curse, Evan burns all the photographs and videos he has from the past. He knows who he is and does not want to play with the timeline anymore. The final scene of the movie shows Evan 8 years later, now a successful person and living in New York. And one day, he leaves his office and sees Kaylee in a crowd. And for a moment, they both stop, but continue to walk their separate ways.